Greetings, fellow beings. 1 year later, and we finally have Penk episode 2. Yeah, I have no really good excuses for making you wait that long. As some of the OGs know, I planned on using my pencil/ink, aka Penk videos for a little Q&A. In the last episode, we talked about some of my favorite artists and stuff I can't remember right now. For this one, well, you'll have to stick around. So before I begin, I just want to clarify that, yes, I do see my mistakes in the finished product. If it was digital, I would have at least tried to fix it, no problem. But by the time I noticed my mistake, it was too late. So what you gonna do? You keep going, that's what. So keep going, I shall. Learn from this and move forward. I tend to say that like every time. All right, enough of that. Let's get to some of your questions answered. I'm going to start with the questions that seem to require shorter answers. So, question 1. What is something you believe artists should have? Besides patience and perseverance, obviously. Books! Sorry. Lots of books. Art books. But get the ones that feed your creativity and visual library. I can go on and on about that, but I'll stop right here. Question 2. This may be a hard question to answer, but I know you're obsessed with art books. So my question is, do you have a favorite book from your collection? I know you, and you know I have a problem with this, with these types of questions. Every time someone has asked me a what's your favorite type of question, it's quite difficult for me to pinpoint. Like, I don't even have a singular favorite color. I have 5. So to answer your question, yes, but not a singular favorite. You see, my books can be split into a few categories, and I'm just referring to my art-related books alone. To generalize, I have the game art books. These contain concept and illustration art for their particular games. And then there's the artist art books, books that have art from one or a collective of artists for art's sake. Then there are my photography art books. It's self-explanatory, a plethora of really great pictures from real life. And then there are the how-to/reference books. These are books that actually contain guides on how to create something specific. Although, to be honest, all my art books are primarily used for reference and learning. I'm a nerd. So my favorite category is... Dang it, I can't choose. But you gotta. I can't. It's life or death. Then give me No. Because then I can't look at the art books if I am the deads. So if I have to choose... Okay, the game art book category. I'm sorry, my other babies. Mama was cornered. Okay, question 3. Do you have any artistic pet peeves? Many, but I'll only address one today. It's when people talk about style, and when they ask when I'm going to choose a style, or if they found an artist that I wish to be the next so-and-so of. Maybe I don't have the right to say this, but I believe acquiring skill comes first. And with skill, good artists inherently develop a style of their own. And who's to say that style won't evolve? But hey, no judgment to someone who wants to be the next artist they admire. Like they say, the first stage to mastering anything is imitation. My thing is just, please don't come up to me and say, this is the style for you that you should be going for. You like this aesthetic, so you should be the next, I don't know, Tim Burton or whatever artist. That's not to say that I won't learn from any artist. I mean, come on, you've heard of my book collection, and my last episode talked about all the artists I look up to. I just don't want to be the next so-and-so copy of an artist. I still look up to them, and I want to learn everything I can from them still. I'm just excited to see how my style develops from all the tips and tricks and skills that I collect from mentors and other artists. Does that make sense? Okay, moving on. Question 4. When did you start doing art? Ooh, this is a big one. I don't know, it's always gotta be a complicated answer with me. But okay, short answer first is as soon as I was capable of scribbling. So like 2 years old. Now for the long, detailed answers. So buckle up, it's story time. I did first encounter my love for creating when I was very small. I tried everything within traditional media means, and I drew all the time. When I was 4, my dad gave me a clipboard that I then carried with me everywhere. Sadly, when I was 16 in my senior year of high school, I think I left it out on the bleachers outside on my last day there. I didn't even realize it was missing till like a day or two later. Anywho, like I said, I drew all the time. Even though I did this everywhere and anytime, I still found kids my age that were way better than myself. This was the driving force for me to keep going. Along the way, I played with other mediums like watercolors, origami, sculpting, carpentry, oil paints, acrylics, you name it. Despite having the freedom to experiment creatively, there were some hiccups where I stopped. I'll get to those in a bit. Now, I never had much formal education for art, except for that one time when I was 14-ish and attended a fine arts school for like 2 months. Not to brag or anything, but I prided myself in being a fast learner. As long as there was someone to pour into me on any subject, I would get it and I would fly with it. Which is also why I only lasted 2 months at the fine arts school. This school was a excel at your pace kind of school. If you wanted to take your time, it was perfectly fine. If you wanted to climb as fast as you could, that was great too, given you could afford it. So you guessed it, I was excelling fairly quickly. With every level came new expenses, and Gramsci couldn't keep up with it anymore. So I quit. Then, around the same time, I had some family members tell me to just stop art altogether and focus on, I'm doing air quotes, real careers so I wouldn't starve in the future. I eventually started to listen. I still doodled everywhere, but art wasn't such a big thing for me anymore. I stopped and focused on other things like college, my jobs, church ministries. I had my hands on like 5 different ones at the time. And then every once in a while, I would indulge myself in a canvas painting. Because of these long breaks from creating, I obviously fell behind in my skill. That wasn't easy for me to swallow. Quick little note, there's so much more to this art journey story, but I'm skipping a whole lot just to get to your answer, I promise. Okay, back to the story. I guess you could say I have had many starts to my art story. The first being when I was introduced to it as a child. The second being when I had a taste of formal art education. And the third, after I got married and an old friend found me on Facebook. Let's call him Kay. Kay was my old best friend. We met in kindergarten and then lost contact after 5th grade. So 11 years later, he finds me. We catch up and eventually art pops up in our conversation. Now at the time, Kay was attending an art college and offered to teach/mentor me. I admit, at first I started all gung-ho and again, eventually slid down into my depths of despair. I was so frustrated with seeing just how much I had to climb. So once again, I stopped. Fast forward a couple of years, and my husband and I move into our second place. We meet our new neighbor. We lived on the corner, so she was the only one on the side of us. And she was older than us. She already had grown offspring, but she was super sweet. And eventually, she invites me over for tea and coffee and oil painting at her sister's place down the block. She told me that they get together every Saturday to paint and drink coffee. I accepted. And then the fourth start happened. Her sister, we'll call her Jay, was the acting teacher on Saturdays for her family, which were her sisters, her nephew, her mom, and the occasional friend. When we finally get to painting, she noticed that my skill was not of a beginner, yet not of a pro. But she seemed to like me. So Jay took me under her wing. This fourth and final start is what sparked something new. I finally started to take art seriously, and it once again became my breath. In time, I started taking lessons from Kay again as well, and the art journey has continued at full speed since. I know that was a long-winded answer. Kudos if you're still here. You know, there are full separate stories about my adventures with Kay, my mentorship under Jay, that I would love to share in the future with you guys. Okay, on to question 5. Question 5 is, what inspires you? This is another one that I can dive deep into, but I'm going to keep it short. The short answer is everything. It could be a song, a book from my collection, an anime scene, a failure, an emotion, anything. For instance, like moments where I felt depressed or a bad memory popped up, I will run and grab my sketchbook after wiping away the tears and snot and scribble down everything I see in my mind. Or if I'm out somewhere and I love just how the light hits something like a tree or a trash can, or I see an interesting branch, I want to replicate that, and I'll grab my sketchbook. You can find inspiration literally from anywhere. I know that sounds cliche, but I'm not kidding. All right, on to question 6. Do you have any other activities you enjoy besides art? Definitely. Things have obviously changed since I became a parent. If you were to have asked me this when I was much younger, I would say like around college age, 16, 17, I would have given you a very long list. I spent so much time trying everything. I mean, I even made time every day to skateboard. But the current me has a much shorter list. You know, we got all that adulting stuff to do with bills and sadness. I'm just kidding. I still enjoy playing video games. I enjoy reading, playing guitar, drawing. No, that's art. Painting. No, that's art too. I guess I don't. I'm just kidding. I play a lot with my son and my dogs. I also enjoy stuff with my husband that I will not disclose out loud. To be honest, I'm also at that age where even shopping for groceries can be a fun event. Question 7. What is your dream job? Oh, okay. Don't laugh. For the last 10 years, basically since Kay reconnected, I wanted to be an illustrator or a concept artist for Bethesda. A lot of their games have the aesthetic I really like. I mean, my favorite video game aesthetics of all time come from 2 different game series. The first one of all time is the BioShock series. Oh my gosh, I just love that. I've played it like 5 times. And then there's the American McGee Alice series aesthetic, which also happens to be one of my favorite video game art books. I said one of, it's not the favorite. But he's already working on the 3rd game in the series. And okay, I'm honest with myself. I know where my skill is compared to the industry standard. And I doubt I'll be good enough in time for his next game if he makes the next one. But that's not a big deal. I wouldn't say Bethesda is a long shot, but it's a long shot. But it's still one of my dreams. The other dream is to be skilled enough to where I can create anything I dream of exactly how I see it. And then people will just want to buy my work. If I'm being honest with myself, I believe that's the most reachable goal. So I guess I'm on my way to living the dream. What if I am living the dream? I mean, nobody said living the dream wasn't hard work, right? On to question 8. Where do you find your music for your videos? I choose from whatever the movie maker has on my iPad. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, my editing isn't super fancy. I mean, it works for me right now. I just play videos over and over with the different songs provided in the list until I feel one is, all right, let's use this one. Question 9, and this is the last one. What is a little known fact about you? Okay, I have a jar of googly eyes, and I have a jar of bottle caps. Don't ask. Both jars are completely unrelated. So that's it for today. There are your questions, and there are my answers. I'm thinking, if there are no questions by Penk episode 3, I'm thinking of using that time for talent stories as well. Then I can give you the nitty-gritty details of art life. So what'd you think? Let me know in the comments. Side notes, today's piece was inspired by a lot of things, but the main inspiration for the pose can be found in the book called Hyper Angle Volume 3. I think Hyper Angle or Hyper Angles, whatever. It's a Japanese pose reference book. And the mushrooms are a variation that can be found on corpses. I can't remember the name, but there you go. Anything else was just, So, if there's anything else you want to hear in the next Penk episode, because I'm really digging using paper again, leave it in the comments. Send me a message. And a sincere thank you to all those who took the time to ask me questions for this episode, whether it was in person, through phone call, through text. I truly appreciate it. So that's a wrap for this video. Once again, thank you for clicking on this video and actually listening to me ramble this long. And as always, thanks for watching. Laters.